stuff now. 3 things. I want you guys to write this down. 3 things every single person needs to know about you in order to use you as a realtor, in order to consider using you as a realtor. You ready? We're going to cover these. These are the basics, and then we're going to get into, as I said, the meat of things. Number 1, they have to like you. We talked about this, right? They have to like you. Likability is a huge factor. Number 2, they have to trust you. And number 3, they have to believe that you can do the job. They have to like you, they have to trust you, and they have to believe that you can do the job. If they believe 2 out of 3, they will invite you for a picnic over the weekend, but they will not hire you to sell their $500,000 house. Okay, so let's talk about this. First thing up, likability. Does likability have a lot to do with your personality? Is your personality changeable, or is it just innate, God-given, however you want to call it? What is it? I want to hear your opinions. Is it innate, or can you change it? You can change it. I've got no dissenters here. Think of it this way. Let's use an extreme example since you guys love the stories about children being yelled at. So let's say a kid, extreme example, grows up in an abusive household, physically, verbally, emotionally, the whole deal. Will that or will that not shape that kid when they become an adult? They either become that person who is, I don't care what anybody thinks, and they're so strong-headed, when the truth is they care more than anybody about what anybody thinks, or they become that coy, shy little, I don't want to put myself in a position where someone can abuse me or somebody, yes or no, right? So we know that it shaped them. So if we know that it can shape them up till then, can the experiences and the things you go through now shape who you become in the future? Absolutely, right? You guys are following along here, right? Here's a question I want you to ask 3 people that you consider to be the closest to you. And this is not easy, okay? These are not easy questions, and you better trust these people, okay? I want you to ask the 3 closest people to you that you can trust and aren't going to stomp all over you. If you could change one thing about me, what would it be? If you could change one thing, how many of you have done that before? If you could change one thing about me, what would it be? Now, if you can't think of anybody to ask, just go get into a fight with your spouse, okay? They will tell you pretty quickly everything that you need to change, okay? Believe me, okay? So, if you could change one thing, what would you change? Here's the funny thing. You guys are going to get answers. Watch this. You're actually going to get answers that aren't even true. Some people are going to say things they wish they could change about you that aren't even true because perception is reality. Some of you have a perception. People perceive you in a certain way that is not even who you are, but because they perceive you in that way, it is costing you business. If you happen to be a quiet person, a shy person who doesn't go up and talk to anybody, sometimes that can appear to be arrogant. Sometimes you can appear to be a jerk. Even though you're not, you're just shy. Now, if they appear that way about you, they think that way about you, does that affect you? Because they don't want to use you, right? They don't want to be around you. They think you're arrogant, even though it's not true. So here's the thing. When you're asking this question to people, don't worry about whether what they're saying is true or not. All that matters, and you should be happy, they're giving you, if nothing else, the perception of you, which we need to make a change about. Remember this, the high majority of people that ever use you, use your services, whatever it may be, will never know if you're good at what you do until after they use you. All they know is they like you. True or not true? Have you ever hired somebody and you didn't even know if they could do the job of what you're doing, you just liked them? Last year I had a young kid at a picnic of mine. I don't know how he got the invite. He must have been a friend of one of my nieces or something. He's at my house. And he's a plumber. And I needed plumbing. And he happened to plumb, if that's a word. Is that a word that you can plumb? Is that a word? I'm looking for a census here. We'll make it a word today, okay? That's an honorary Century 21 word. He can plumb, okay? And so I'm like, I like him. He said that he had just read my book and whatever. It's a good way, by the way, to get in with somebody. I read your book and I loved it, and they start telling you all about it. Great way to get in. So I'm like, this guy's really nice. I needed plumbing. Did I hire him or not hire him? Within 24 hours, he was bent over under my sink, and I saw a whole lot more of him than I wanted to see, right? This is the prerequisite for all plumbers. You guys know this. It's like before they collect the check, they show you that crack, right? And so it didn't matter. All I knew is that I liked him, and I hired him. Truth is, he didn't do that great of a job, but I hired him before I ever knew. Once they actually use you, now your opportunity is to show them that they made the right decision. We talk about likability. Here's what I want each one of you to do right now. You don't have to stand up to do it. I want each one of you to greet the person next to you, but wait, before you do it, I want you to do it extremely shy. I want you to almost be tentative to touch it. You can't look them in the eye. You're extremely shy, and I want you to greet the person next to you very tentatively. Do it for the next 5 seconds. Am I seeing some fist pumps? Did I just see a fist pump? That's not following instructions. No one said a shy fist pump. I'm very shy, but I'm going to initiate a fist pump. It's kind of an oxymoron. Anyway, all right, here's what I want you to do now. You ready? Ready? Back up here, attention, ready? Stand up, and I want you to greet somebody less attractive than you. All right, stop it now. Okay, now. While you're in that mode, greet the person next to you like you would normally greet them. Go ahead. All right, bring it around. Back up front. Tell me something. Was your interaction the second time different than the first? Did your laughter make a difference in the way that you greeted them? Were you confident or less confident? What am I trying to show you? I'm trying to go back to what we said before. You control your state, okay? A little laughter changed the chemicals in your body, and all of a sudden you were a completely confident person. You had no problem saying hello, yes or no. Yes, you did, right? Again, show of hands. How many of you have kids? Okay, those of you that don't, again, think about your dog or whoever you want to think of, okay? From now on, when you guys greet people, let's talk practical. From now on, I want you to greet people as if your kid's eating next week actually depends on them liking you or not. Would that change the way you greet people? Have you ever been guilty of just kind of throwing your hand out and doing whatever because you have to say hello to people? Guys, I say hello to a lot of people. I am still intentional about this to this day. Would it make a difference? Let's connect the dots here. Will your business do better or worse if people like you? Will your first impression have any kind of an inkling on whether they like you or not? Do you have control over your state? Would you greet people differently if your children's eating depended on it the next week? Okay, we've made a connection. Let's make a change now, okay? Number 2, they have to trust you. How do you get someone to trust you? How do you get someone to trust you? Look them in the eye. It's a good one, right? That's all part of it, no doubt. Anybody else? Honest? How do you prove, that's a good point. How do you prove honesty when you've never worked with them? Every single one of you should have a system that you are following, a script you are following, where let's just use a seller, for example. Someone calls you for a listing appointment. Every one of you should have a script or whatever, number of questions, whatever, that on your first consultation, you stay on the phone for a minimum amount of time and you ask a certain number of questions because time equals relationship. Have you ever went away with somebody on a trip and they came along and you couldn't stand them, but from that point on you had to say hello when you saw them because now there was a bond? Has that ever happened? Time equals relationship. Time equals bond. You need to spend as much time as you can. Now, another thing you need to do as part of your process is you should have a set criteria, a set number of pillars or whatever you want to call them, that you are setting them up for, I will do this, and then you do it prior to ever meeting them. Meaning, you're on the phone, you ask the questions, you say what you're going to do, and you say, I'm going to send you a follow-up letter that has to do with this, and I will see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock. You have now set 2 different guidelines that you are showing them you are going to meet. Is this easy or hard? It's very easy, right? And yet it builds trust. Because when you said, I'll send it, and you sent it, in their mind they start to say, well, they do what they say they're going to do. And when you say you're going to be there at 5 o'clock, what time are you supposed to be there? Not realtor time of 5:10, okay? 5 o'clock, all right? Realtors are notorious for being 10, 15 minutes late. What I find, we know this because how many people came in the room 10 minutes after I started. Again, I'm going to turn around again. All right, so we know this because if you're consistently able to be 10, 15 minutes late, you could be on time. What does that say to that person who you were late for? My time is more valuable than your time. Whether your seller buyer says it or not, they're thinking it, okay? These are all part of building your trust. How about believing you can do the job? How do you prove to someone you can do the job? Guys, I was in my low 20s up against top producers trying to sell properties. Is the way I dress, does it have anything to do with how I am perceived? If I walked into this room when they announced me, Katy Perry's going and here I come, and I showed up in boxer briefs and a guinea tea, what is your reaction? That's better than Winnipeg. A guy did that, so thank you very much, all right? So, you see my point, though. Am I credible or not credible? I'm talking about if I show up in boxer briefs and a guinea tea. Probably not too credible, right? You're like, who the heck is this, right? And so I knew that when I was going into a place. Not only did I know my market, whatever, but I knew how to dress, okay? Now, you go down to Southern California, and you don't dress like this, because if you dress like this, you're slick. You need to put sandals on, you need to put, all right? So we need to know our audience. Too many of us are just kind of, everybody can just get around however I do things and whatever without taking a look at who is our audience. Here's the thing, if you are getting to know your client the first time you meet them, you've made a grave mistake. You should know them before you ever meet them. That's all part of that script, that system in the beginning. You're talking to them for a certain amount of time. You're asking the right questions. You know them before you ever meet them. Is perception reality? Yes or no? Okay, for example, you guys are watching me up here, right? I'm dressed a certain way. I think I'm pretty likable. Some of you probably hate me, but that's okay, right? You know, a couple of jokes here and there. You probably have a pretty good overall impression. I hope so, okay? I could be completely lying to you. I could leave here and be an absolute jerk, and trust me, some guys that do this are, okay? But I could do that, but that would be your impression. You know this is true because have you ever heard of actors being typecast? Right? Do you guys remember that show, Friends? You guys remember that? I ran into Matt LeBlanc a couple years ago in an airport. And so I went up to Matt LeBlanc, and what did I say? Hello, Joey, right? I knew he was acting, and yet he didn't look too happy about it. And I said, hello, Joey. Typecast, right? Perception is reality. You know, a couple weeks ago I was in Chicago. I don't know why I tell you guys these stories. I got to stop this. So a couple weeks ago I'm in Chicago, and I get on an elevator. And I go up the elevator, and on the second floor, somebody gets on the elevator, right? Now, there are unwritten rules in an elevator, right? You look ahead, you don't say a thing, and if it gets too awkward, you look at your phone. You guys know these rules? Right? For the men in the room, it's kind of like being at a stall. You don't talk to each other. Okay? I'm actually putting that out there on a personal note because someone just broke that rule. So I just wanted to put that out there so that you actually know that rule. But we know that there's these rules, right? So we get on, second floor he jumps on, I give him a little nod, and I do this, and I eventually look at my phone. But a couple floors up, I start to smell something. And I start sniffing, right? You know what he did? He started to sniff. And I'm thinking, buddy, there's only 2 of us on this elevator. And it wasn't me, okay? And I'm tempted at this point to break the rules and say, you know, look, you know, but I hold it together. I'm like, whatever, okay? So a couple floors go up, and he gets off the elevator. He left a legacy, but he gets off the elevator. I'm like, thank God, I can hold my breath for the next 30 seconds. Elevator goes up, and what am I thinking? Please, God, do not let this elevator stop again, right? Get up a couple more floors. Lo and behold, ding, 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 we're stopping, okay? Now, we couldn't just have somebody get on with like a breathing machine and a wheelchair. No, 3 very young, attractive females, okay? They get on. Just my luck. It's a true story. This just happened. I can't make this stuff up. So they get on, and it's not long before they start doing what? Right? What did I do? I figure reasonable doubt, right? There's 3 of them. There's 1 of me. You know, there's a chance it's 1 of them. I'm going to play this up, right? So I do the whole thing while still looking forward, and a couple more floors go up, and they jump off the elevator. And I'm thinking, thank God, just get me to my floor already, right? And as they're getting off, one of them says to the other 2, can you believe that guy? It actually still kind of scars me. They're one of the few people in this world that if I run into them, I have to keep my head down. Now, who am I to them? Am I the speaker that's going to come up or whatever? Who am I? I'm that guy, okay? That's who I am. I am that guy, right? And so forevermore, perception is reality. Was I that guy? The answer is no, guys. Every one of you should be saying no right now, okay? It was not me, okay? I am that guy to them, though. Perception is reality. Is that point true or not? Perception is reality. Here's the reason I tell you that story. Every one of you has a certain perception in your marketplace. And most of you are not in control of it, just like I was not in control of that situation. And unfortunately, it's become the reality for you. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to challenge you a little bit to get a little bit more intentional about creating your perception. Does that make sense? How you dress, how you talk, how you act, how you do business. All of these things, each one of you needs to decide what will the perception be. When I met with my first clients, potential clients, when I was 20-something years old, squeaky-voiced, whatever, did I stop and say, please, Mr. and Mrs., I really need my first client. Could you please do that? Did I do that? No, I did not. I would not be here right now. I'd never get a client, okay? What did I do? I positioned myself in a way that I was the market leader. I was young, which meant I had zeal, but I also know what I need to do. I've also got passion. I also got experience. And I positioned myself in a way that may or may not have at that point been the 100% what I was, but perception became reality. Does that or does that not make sense?